What is going on? North Korea says missile launches were not warnings, but practice for attack. Big words from a little man. Of course, not something that anyone wants to hear. It says that North Korea military leaders and officials said Monday that a recent slate of missile launches was part of a plan to simulate the attack on South Korean and American targets. It says the hermit state has fired off a series of missiles in the past few weeks and previously said that the weapons were a warning to the largest ever joint South Korean-U.S. air drills that have ever took place in the Korean peninsula. It says that, however, North Korea has said that now the drills were practice for a full-scale attack on the Korean peninsula, per Axios. It says, quote, all of the military operations attained their planned goal with success and the high ability of conducting operations of our army and estimated satisfactorily. North Korean military officials said in a news release by the state-run KCNA News. According to the news release, that NK fired off a barrage of various weapons, including 5 tactical ballistic missiles of different kinds and 46 long-range missiles of multiple launch rocket systems, as well as an intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM. Those would be the kind that hit us here in the U.S. Now, a lot of people will immediately go, oh, it's NK. They say this stuff all the time. When it is put into the bigger picture of Vlad and Xi and everything else that is going on right now, I would not underestimate what level they will go to get this WW3 officially started. Myself and many others believe we are already in World War III, including many experts, many well-renowned economists, many investors. They're already saying that this is a replay of World War II. Just people haven't declared it yet, and countries haven't been official, but it has been unofficial for a while now. So this and much, much more on tonight's show. As always, we wanted to get right into it. We're going to be right back right after this with more news and, of course, Dex and everything else. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Back home, I saw them all alone. It wasn't them, no. It was their dirty clones. I was on my way back home. I saw them all alone. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. I am sick today, so if I sound nasally or sound like crap, I apologize. But again, we are going to try to bring you the news as best we can. Now, there's a ton to go over. A lot went on over the weekend, and of course, there are many events happening worldwide. Right now, it's more important than ever to really just kind of gather what you have and what your plans are for the future, and to not take any day for granted. Right now, more than ever, every single country around the world is kind of reverberating this whole World War III notion, and whether it be true or whether 10% of what is going on is true right now, one thing is for sure: we should all be looking at our friends and family and spending more time with them, and just taking, of course, life as what it is. It's, we don't know if we're going to be around for a day or 10 years or 50 years. Again, this is something that people forget, and people are so impatient nowadays. They just go, and then they look back and they realize, wow, I wish I would have really absorbed all of what my life was. In fact, that's why most people don't remember much. So tonight's show, we're going to have a lot of news. if you go into the website over on marfooglenews.com, you'll see that it is all done by thumbnail. You'll look for today's thumbnail, 8 billion people. This week we will hit 8 billion people, and this is history in the making. And, of course, when you click on won't be for long, of course, because I'm sure that they'll take that number down quite a bit if they have their way. It says, of course, all of the different articles, every single picture, article, tweet, document that we're going to show you here today is going to have a bibliography of all of our sources right there. This is something we take the time to do 5 nights a week, every week, before the show. So you can follow along on a second device. You can go back retrospectively. You can check our work. Also, on the very bottom, you can see that we have overflow. This is all the stuff that did not fit into the 2-hour time period, all of the political stuff, all of the, of course, now tomorrow, very important day, obviously coming up. I'm sure most of you are waiting for it to be over. That is all down there. Tons of really crazy stuff going on right now. So make sure to go check that out. And then let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So also remember, friends, marfooglenews.com/friends. Dex, well, we're still on this, and I'm going to go back to this. So NK is saying that this is practice. Obviously, people say it's saber rattling, but in my opinion, I think that NK has kind of been a puppet for either Xi or Vlad or both, or another country we don't even know about. But it seems like they are doing this. The timing, of course, looks like they have more confidence, or like they feel like they have somebody backing them or something. Why are they doing it during the B administration? Are they punking them, or what's going on with that?
Well, I think that they feel like they can get away with it, whether it's this administration or just the backing that they have from Xi and Vlad. They can get away with it. And I think they're also testing the waters, right? Part of this is to see, what they can get away with. They put a ICBM over the island of Japan, freaking out everyone in Japan. So that was kind of a big deal, and they got away with it. What's to say the next one won't go even further and make it almost to America, and then they crash it into the water? I don't know. And I don't know how far they have to go before a response actually happens, before people think it's not a drill or a test. But I could just imagine a day coming in the not too distant future where people on the West Coast are getting alerts saying take shelter because they don't know what's going on with Kim because he's firing off these ICBMs.
Yeah, and something like 100 miles off of the California coast, something lands in the water. That's a story that it's like with the patterns. I see that kind of thing happening. And, of course, everybody would get some sort of cell phone alert. Everybody would be tripped out, like a Hawaii 2.0. By the way, Hawaii, they say, was a mistake. There's all sorts of weird things surrounding that event. The entire thing really smelled of a cover-up. If you actually followed all of the Hawaii false missile alert, whether you believe it was an asteroid, whether you believe it was a real missile or a fake missile or a test or something, it was very, very odd because the way that they didn't just cover it and say, hey, it was an accident, this and that. They changed their story multiple times. They said that it was an accidental button press. They said the guy pressed the wrong button. And then people, of course, didn't just take that as an answer. People, dropped their kids into manholes. Jim Carrey wrote a book because he said it changed his life. He was on Hawaii and his assistant told him he was going to die in 45 minutes. People were told they had 45 minutes to live and nowhere to go. It's an island. So when that happened, of course, a lot of people did not take, oh, yeah, he pushed the wrong button they just wouldn't take it. So they kept asking questions and questions and questions. And as they investigated, they saw that it wasn't just a simple button press. It was a drop-down menu with a warning, and then another drop-down menu with another warning, and then another drop-down warning. There was basically no way that somebody could have done that. And they had to actually select all of the areas that got that message. So they had to check all of these things off. It was very, there's no way, absolutely none, you could do an accident. Once people found out that, then they, of course, fired the guy. But then we found out a couple days later he wasn't fired. He was moved to the side and given a promotion and got paid more money. and he was supposed to be the scapegoat, so people didn't accept that. So then he did get fired, and then he got hired again. It was all super weird. It wasn't like a Staples button. It was more of this complex process. And then he ended up saying that he did think it was real, and it was his miscommunication because he got information that he thought it was a real one. And then, of course, they did a 2020 or one of these shows went in there and basically made them look like idiots, said that they were all on their Netflix and everybody had their feet up on the table and nobody was paying attention. Basically, they put the blame on that single station that controlled this. And whether that is true or not, if that is true, that's absolutely horrid, because if you're thinking about if we're on the West Coast or in Hawaii or anywhere in the United States and the people that are supposed to be getting us our alerts, if it is exactly true what they are telling us, then that's terrifying, because they didn't let us know. They basically, there are a bunch of guys watching their cell phones and throwing darts at the wall while the beeps are going off. Like any end of the world movie, the guy's like this, and then everything starts beeping, and they're like, oh, what? Oh no, it's got to be a missing sensor. And 10 minutes go by and the missile hits, right? Well, that's what they said that these guys were. With this is something that very well could happen, and it wouldn't be hitting us. I would say at first, watch, he'll probably try to scare us by launching one and proving that he can get here and do it like 100 miles off our coastline. I feel like that's going to be something that happens before anything real, but I wouldn't underestimate these guys, because I believe these guys are now the puppet of some other bigger country. And of course, if their country, if they're already on the edge of getting taken over or they're taking him out, maybe they might do it on their way out, and maybe Kim will have a spot at the table at, in G's house or something. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinion. And then Earth's population is about to hit 8 billion people next week after tripling since 1950. It says Earth's population will grow to 8 billion next week, the United Nations has revealed. The UN Population Division said that by November 15th, the world's population will have tripled since 1950. And it is a really trippy thought to think of. And Dex, this is really crazy to think about. Since 1950, in one generation, the world has absolutely exploded in population. That is 70 years, or about a lifetime. Think about what would happen in another lifetime. Have you seen where they project it and how it says, almost 10 billion by 2050, and then so on? It will just keep going if something doesn't happen.
Yeah, the numbers are crazy, at least what we've been through. Obviously, we went through the baby boomers. We went through a lot of other countries having massive population swells. But now, looking at going forward, going out to, say, 2100, they're only looking at 10.4. So it's not necessarily as big as a jump as far as percentages go, but it's still a big jump. And it makes you wonder, how much further and why maybe there's some credence to a lot of these folks that are trying to get off Earth and colonize other planets, because maybe we've just got a lot of people. The other one was the life expectancy going to be increasing to an average age of 77.2 years. And that's not even now, that's coming up. So I think the average life expectancy may be a little longer here in America. I could be wrong, but I thought it was more than that. But that's going to be the worldwide number, because this is coming from the U and the N.
Yeah, and when they say that, it's crazy that it blew up this much, and then they're saying that it will go down. Did something change? By the way, did they change things? Did they change what we eat? Did they change things to the point where now it's actually going down? Why? Are, of course, sperm counts going down? There's a lot of weird things here. Obviously, most people say we're overpopulated. Then some have the argument, like, Elon's pointed out that there was some gentleman who actually said that he could fit every single person on Earth if he stacked them in buildings or something in the island of New York, or in the area of the main area of New York. And so they say that, we could actually fit people. It would be how we fit them. And I was thinking about when they did that, I'm like, what is that, a lead up to mega cities or something, stack us high on top of each other. But also he says that we're going to have a population crash. And a lot of people are like, no, it's overpopulated. He's crazy. Well, how he put it is, look at the percentage of adult diapers versus baby diapers. It's pretty simple. Look at how many people are in their older eras compared to the baby era. Japan surpassed that, where the ratio was bigger, more older people than people in diapers about 10 or 12 years ago. So Japan actually has more people in adult diapers, so in their older generations, than they do babies. And that's kind of a trip to think about. What if they did do something, or what if we had, different foods, or all of the different chemicals and things that we now, eat and consume? There's no super long-term studies on what changing our food would do to us. I mean, look at, I remember back when people drank milk and people were asking what was in the milk, because all of a sudden, people were going through puberty early and all sorts of weird stuff. And people definitely questioned if the stuff that was going in was a little bit different. And now, of course, we know that a lot of stuff is different. We know that a lot of things are genetically modified and such. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for everybody that's popping in. Oh, man. And then thank you over on DLive, Scooby-Doo-Doo-Ride, Johnson, Bumpity, Kimbria, Vicky K, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you. And then, of course, over on YouTube, and then Rumble. Thank you, all of my Rumble viewers. And, of course, Miss Mountain, thank you from Canada. I appreciate that. Sean Jock, thank you as well. I believe I missed you. And then Machina Opus, thank you. I appreciate your support. I believe some of you actually popped in before the show even started. WV Prepper Chicks says, did you see the 11 emergency action messages that went out? Let's see here. I don't know if we have that. No, I don't. I did not see that.
I just looked in the news and didn't see it, but maybe it's something being self-reported by people. I haven't found it.
Yeah, if you have if there's an emergency message or an EAS that went out, please let us know and we'll get it on the show. I didn't see anything about it. Stephen McMahon, thank you, says the experts say population will rise to 9 billion and then go down to 6. And why can't they let us go to Mars and other planets? Stephen McMahon, I don't know. But I plan on comparing. It was very weird. There was a lot of feedback on that Mars turning blue thing at the same time as basically Vlad did a nuclear test and not surprisingly enough, it caused a blue aura around planet Earth. It said the world's population can fit inside Texas with living space. Fact. BT 777. I've seen how they did it, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think it would be too comfortable, but if it's possible, then that's kind of something to think about. Jaleesa H, I believe I actually missed you last show. And then Machina Opus, Sean Jock, and Zippy Moons. Thank you. And then WV Prepper Chicks, please, if you can, send me whatever you got. I don't know if that's in West Virginia or what.
Talking about the EAMs on EAM Watch, where the Sky Kings used to be reported. But those go on daily. But yes, there's some stuff going on there. But you can't tell what it is.
Do you remember when the EAMs or the Sky King messages said shut up Marfoogle or something? Do you guys remember that? We were talking about Sky Kings, and then somebody that had access to the Sky Kings said shut up Marfoogle or something like that. It ended up getting deleted and knocked off, but there was like a message in the official Sky King thing, and it was because it made it look like we were talking about something we weren't supposed to be talking about, but they told us that anybody that had access to that could have done that. So it tripped us out, though, for a second. We were like, what? Why is the Sky King telling us to shut up? That was pretty trippy. And then Palmer Lucky made a VR headset that kills a user if they die in the game. Now, I could see this being in some sort of futuristic movie where you start playing VR, and this is in a bunch of movies where you play a video game, and if you perish in real life. This has been the subject of fan fiction for a long time. It said that the man who created the Oculus Rift has invented a virtual reality headset that will explode the forebrain of a user who dies in a video game. It says Palmer Luckey, defense contractor and the father of modern virtual reality, has created a VR headset that will take the life of the user if they perish in the game that they're playing. He did this to commemorate the anime Sword Art Online. Luckey is the founder of Oculus, a company he sold to Facebook in 2014 for $2 billion. And this is the technology that Mark Zuckerberg rebranded as the foundation for Meta. It says Luckey's killer headset looks like a Meta Quest Pro hooked up with 3 explosive charge modulars that sit above the screen. The charges are aimed directly at the user's forebrain, and should they go off, would obliterate the head of the user. The idea of trying your real life to the virtual avatar has always fascinated me. You instantly raise the stakes to the maximum level and force people to fundamentally rethink how they interact with the virtual world and the players inside of it. So first of all, you might think, oh, this is just some gimmicky stunt. I could see this being a dark web thing that people tune into and watch somebody play this. And if you didn't know, there are creepy things out there like that. There are countries that take people, tourists or whatever, and put them in dungeons, and then people watch it on the dark web stuff. I don't even want to go into the creepy stuff that's on there, but there is an entire underworld that's beyond where these horror films stop. If you did not know that, it's not a rabbit hole I suggest anybody go down. It will give you nightmares. But as far as what is actually going on with humanity and what humans do to other humans, once you know what is like happening in those dark spaces, then you go, it makes you question less of what's going on right now. And the I guess when you think, oh, well, they wouldn't do that to other human beings, or they wouldn't do this, that would take the lives of millions. Well, there are people like that. And the people that are probably playing on the dark web stuff, they're probably super, super rich people. They have done anything and everything. They can do anything they want. They're like the Powerball winners, but they have that money for every day. Like, these people get into some really creepy stuff. This, I could see in the future as being some sort of capital punishment. Who knows? But at the same time, this is something that I bet these rich and elite will do a rat race type thing where they put some unsuspecting person that they snatch up and then put them in that and have them combat. You might sound crazy, but I bet you something like this happens already. What do you guys think about this? And of course, it was done as like a stunt for this Sword Art Online, but it's creepy, and just doing it means that somebody's gotten that idea. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I mean, this guy's a defense contractor, and so this is what he built, and so it just makes me wonder what else, where else this may go, and what else they could do with this, because this is not just. While it may seem like it's a joke, it's not. And you can open the picture. I put it in screener if you want to see what it looks like. It basically looks like a black headset. Real. I mean, he won't even use it. He said it's still got bugs and he's afraid it might go off accidentally. But it works, so he won't put it on until he, and if he's willing to take that risk. But it's designed to do this, and it sounds like it's fairly non-complex for him to continue to make them.
It's roulette. It's playing Vladian roulette, right? Well, I mean, I guess if you're really good at a game or something, maybe you'd be confident. See, this is it. And then it's pretty crude. It looks like he used metal from the bolts, and then whatever's in there, it's like 3 bang bangs. They'll go off, and then they'll just go right into the person's head. I mean, that's just creepy. This is something that I could see, like some Hunger Games, rich elite, The Pest, John Leguizamo stuff going on in the dark depths of the creepiness that happens. People don't believe that there are these like inner, circle worlds and the, skull and crossbone games and stuff. I do, unfortunately. Dax, do you want to cover the Japan Prime Minister? I'm gonna go get some Kleenex here real quick.
Absolutely. So the prime minister is vowing to strengthen their military at this international naval review. We've been talking quite a bit about Japan. I know Adam likes to say, watch Japan, watch what they do. They have made significant shifts in their positioning when it comes to their military, when it comes to their positioning as to whether or not they would be an offensive player versus a defense only. So they have long said they would only be in a defensive role and pretty much relied on America and others to sort of support them. They have turned that around significantly, and this is yet another sign of that, where they are, increasing their own military strength. They're talking about, increasing their navy, increasing their warships and things like that. So, again, pay attention to Japan. They have the capability and the resources. They've just never had the will, so to speak, to do anything, invest heavily in this other than just minor defense. And now they're going in, seems like all in.
And Shinzo Abe, we of course followed. We were told to watch Japan, and it's all coming out. I mean, it's definitely Shinzo Abe. His lifelong goal was to get it more militarized and get it to the point where they weren't just a defensive country. He was taken out by a handmade shoddy at a speech that he did, and they had this story of the guy said that that his mom got all of his money taken by the church that the guy went to. It just something was odd about it to me, but that's just my opinion. And then this prime minister was not exactly like that. So that was the former prime minister, and it was after he had already left. He got taken out, and I knew something was up with that. But after that, it was him perishing that actually put it kind of over the edge, and his party was well favored in the country after he perished. So he was kind of, I don't know, not a martyr, but somebody who, after he perished, a lot of people actually said, yeah, we need to do this, for Shinzo Abe. I saw videos of people telling others, saying, he gave his life for this, for all of the different things that he did when he was prime minister. And so I don't know how internally it helped. But again, I've found out a lot more about Japan since we said to watch Japan. Like we were talking about the other day, they're just a different kind of country in general. They're still using fax machines. They're very backwards in a lot of ways, but not. They're almost old school. Dex, wasn't it that they basically take cash? They didn't even have social security numbers yet. Basically, that's what they're trying to get people on. Did you remember?
Right. They don't have an ID system like that, in the sense that everyone is required to have that. And they don't, they prefer cash. A lot of them prefer to use non-trackable money. Yeah.
What a great freaking place, right? And I can totally see how things are changing, and they want to bring in the new system to Japan because they don't want people paying cash and untraceable and all of this. It kind of also tells me that it's more of a one world of effect going on everywhere. So with this is obviously pointing towards that they are going to be going into some sort of conflict. So I don't know if most of you have not, there's a lot of new people, but most of you have been with me long enough. This is yet another thing that I have been saying since before they finished the islands, when they were still digging up dirt from the bottom of the ocean. And I'm not looking for a pat on the back here because this is scary. I wish this wasn't true, but they have heavily fortified this. At one point, people were saying, no, they're just doing this to claim some land. They're doing this for a natural resource that is there. They have heavily fortified this. They have made it a forward operating base. They have defenses. They have refueling stations. And I said this 5 years ago, and people just laughed. They said, ha, 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 okay, sure. They're making a little island so they can use it for commercial reasons and this and that. It says the fortified South China Sea Artificial Islands project, Beijing's military reach and power, say observers. So this actually projects their power. It also gives them a forward operating base, a refueling depot, which, as you remember, it was actually quite hard, if you said 20 or 30 years ago, for Xi to attack the U.S. or whoever ran it before him. because geographically we're in a good place as far as me in the U.S. Because they had such a huge distance. And they would need to refuel. It was a lot, especially for these slower, bigger things that hold these tanks and hold the carriers and all the boats that they would have to bring transports over and everything. But it's not exactly a halfway point, but it is a forward operating base. That's my opinion on this. They've put huge amounts of fuel on it. And when they started doing that a year ago, I said, look at it. They're bringing fuel. It's exactly what we said. It says China has further fortified its artificial islands in the South China Sea with more buildings, radars, and aircraft hangars to help project power across the Indo-Pacific, analysts said. Images taken from the Philippines-based photographer Ezra Aiken revealed docks, radars, airports, military camps, and large aircraft hangars on the 7 Chinese artificial islands. The photos released by Aiken on social media last week also showed multi-story buildings, paved roads, sports fields, and basketball and tennis courts. It says, do you have any questions about the biggest targets and tracks from around the world? Get the answers to SB. Our new platform curated. Okay, this is BS. So look at this picture. Those are wartime radars. If you are an expert on what these are, I mean, we have these kind of domes. One of them is often parked in Hawaii, and that's to detect subs, right? Dex, isn't that partly what that big golf ball thing is used for? And then look at how many different kinds they have here. This is not just a little, this isn't just for natural resources here. Look at this. This is for to move their military forward.
Yeah, this looks totally like a military installation. You even have military vehicles back there. They've got, they said they put in hangars and runways. So yeah, this is the investment. This is definitely looking much more like what we've been suspecting all along. It's not like we didn't know they've been building this, but we're now seeing newer pictures. I guess they ran away a fishing boat that got really close that captured some of these pictures. I'm sure our military has plenty of pictures from satellites, but this is some of the first images we've seen this close of these new buildings and new installations.
And it says, I think they also act as an unsinkable aircraft carrier for the Chinese Air Force and Navy's anti-submarine warfare platforms to hunt submarines in the area. Remember, they took these I don't believe I don't know if any of these existed or little parts were above ground. But what they did is they took these special trudging devices. They took these boats with these big suction vacuums, and they ran it across the floor of the ocean, and it wasn't very deep. They took the dirt, and they kept mounding it up and mounding it up and mounding it up until they actually had land. So they made an island out of nothing, and then we saw the very beginnings of this. I said, look, they're doing this for military purposes, and that at the time there was an argument there. This is when any airplane that went in that zone, China would get on the horn and say, "Get out! This is Chinese airspace," and everybody's like, "No, this is international waters." Now it is physical land occupied by them, and they're saying that these are basically acting as permanent aircraft carriers, which is one reason why we think that, we have this huge advantage is because we do have more aircraft carriers and really, really awesome ones, right? Well, if they have these, not only is it a refueling point, it's a radar point, it's this communications point. It's heavily fortified. It has air defenses. It has every kind of defense you can think of. It's got a version of Iron Dome for them. This is a forward operating base. And this is what we were talking about in the very beginning. I could not believe how many people pushed against this and said, no. And somebody made a bet. They said, I bet you there will be no military action on that island. I wish I could find that person that made that bet. I would love to go back and comment on that comment. So many people pushed back. I don't know why. It could have been their bots. It could have been one of their 1 million strong, online army that was doing that. Back then, too, there was a lot of weird things being said. Anytime I said anything about their country, it's like there would be all this pushback. But none of my viewers are watching from there, and I bet you we can see the geographics of like who's watching, We can even see, like, as far as YouTube tells us what they know about people. So I don't know. I don't think it's because too many people from there are watching. I think it's because there's a lot of bots watching about anything that is said about their country. It says he said they could be used strategically to contest the transit of another state's aircraft or vessels, potentially under declaration of an air defense identification zone, an ADIZ, or more seriously, a blockade. It says the PLA having a presence on these islands expands its ability to conduct surveillance, potentially threaten shipping, and even reduce warning time should it decide to take military action against the Philippines or another littoral state. So I think it would be a pretty big deal as far as them militarizing and using that as a refueling point to get further. And then we're going to be talking about no water, no power, no heat in Kyiv. Before we do, I do want to remind you, again, I cannot stress, we actually lost power a couple nights ago. My Friday stream was cut short. This really came in clutch. Learned a lot from that day because I did realize we had a broken, plug-in heater, and that sucked because we had enough to actually do the whole house, and when it was broken, we didn't. But it was really cool that basically we had, even if we took off a battery, even if I had because I had the one battery and the Energy Flex 1500. If you haven't looked into solar generators, this thing is a beast. Basically, we had all of our house heated up. We had the ability to keep everything going as normal with this device. Now, we were kind of stuck in one room, but we had everything, all of the amenities plugged into this thing, and we had no power for, I want to say 16 hours or something because of a storm here. But this thing is an absolute awesome device because it keeps power going. And what was even cooler is even if I plugged in way more, it would have still, like when I had tons of things, it was saying like 30 hours. When I had all of the essential things, it said like 280 hours. Even if I had every single thing plugged in, the next morning I could just put panels out and get that power back, especially since I have the mod so I can have 8 panels going and bringing powers into this. If you've never seen a solar generator, they're absolutely silent. This one is, I don't know about others, but this one is silent. There is no gas required, so you don't have to keep gas and fuel around. And there's little to no maintenance because there are no running motors or anything else. This is plug and play. It's one of the best systems out there. It is one of the highest quality and best built. That is why it is not cheap. This thing is meant to last, and it is also meant to be modular. That way you can edit it whatever way you want. You can have one battery and be able to throw it, in your front seat, or even 5 batteries and throw it in your front seat, or you can have 96 batteries. It can be expanded up to 96 batteries, which essentially would equal any house, like a whole wall covered in batteries. You can go that far if you want. Again, people go, well, what about if you're in cloudy territory or you're in Seattle where there's only clouds? You still get power and you still get sun through the overcast days. You just get less of it. That's why many people, they'll get more batteries so they can store up power. So if they don't get a great sunny day, they can go through to the next day, or they can go 4 or 5 days without getting nice sun. But even with this thing it's probably on an overcast day, it was an hour longer to charge, which wasn't a big deal. It was like instead of 4.5 hours, it was like 5.5 hours. So big whoop. That was in my personal experience. Again, you can mod this thing out and add all sorts of stuff. Cool thing about this too is it is at the price it is now. Lithium is now in high demand and in low supply. Lithium is something that countries are now fighting over. It is something that is almost guaranteed to go up in price as far as how this is now going to become our future. They're saying that they're going to switch all the cars to it, everything else, and even the lithium, the factories and everything else, they're saying we don't know how we're even going to do this. They're going to switch all cars over to lithium in however many days unless they have some new tech. So it's absolutely insane. If you want to get upwards of $170 off on this and support our independent channel, then I highly recommend going to marfooglenews.com/energy. Anybody that already has this knows exactly why. It's amazing to have power when no one else does. Not to mention, you're not advertising it. There's no huge motor that can be heard 3 blocks away. This is stealth mode. You can be down in your basement with all your stuff on, and nobody would even know you have power, which is extremely important, especially if a real SHTF happened. You wouldn't want to advertise you have a generator. Somebody will be coming and getting it pretty quick. MarfoogleNews.com/energy. Thank you for supporting us. Again, we are independent. We're on our own. So thank you. And everybody that already has one, please let people know how awesome these things are. All right. And then, Dex, do you want to talk about Kyiv prepares for a winter with no heat, water, or power?
Yeah, imagine this. The mayor of your town is coming out and warning the residents that they must prepare for the worst winter if this continues, if the conflict continues, because of what's been happening to their energy infrastructure. You know, the nuclear plant was taken offline. There have been repeated attacks in different locations that have had direct effects on their grids and on their power producing and production capabilities. The effects that are the lack of gas and natural gas that's available or being pumped in. And that, keep in mind, that's used at power plants to create power and create electricity. So in addition to piping it to homes for heat, right? So this is the situation they're sort of in. And this is what they're telling their residents is to get ready, because it gets pretty cold there. They have pretty cold winters. And they, need to be prepared for the fact that they may be living in a winter with no heat, maybe even no water and no power. And that's kind of that's a wake up call for a lot of people. I'm sure, living in that conflict zone as those people have been doing is not, that's a wake up call in and of itself. But then let's layer in the fact that, you're going to go to bed at night and be cold, or you might not be able to take a warm shower, or you might not even have running water. That's kind of crazy.
And it's Kyiv, but I think about this and think about how this could happen pretty much anywhere with all of our outdated grid, and everywhere around the planet is still using old fashions of doing this. But this is only getting crazier. I talked about on my last video on news on how weird it is that Xi actually stepped up and rebuked Vlad using nukes. Of course, today and the next 24 hours is going to be very important. There's all sorts of different dates that line up, and not just, YouTube dates that are thrown out there by Reddit or something. We're talking about dates that are thrown out there by countries and foreign defense ministers and things like that. And this time period is really, really important. So we're hoping that nothing happens, but there's a huge kind of chatter of something big happening. Obviously, over the last 3 weeks, we've talked about how everyone is pointing fingers and saying this person's going to use a tactical nuke and this person's going to use a tactical nuke, and basically training our brains before anything happens, trying to convince people of who did it before they even done it. So I feel like something big is on its way, and if it's not, I predict that it will probably be a longer time period, but something will happen. It's kind of like ever since this started, February 24th, we were actually talking about this in December. And it was like, oh, it's going to happen in a couple weeks. And in December, after that couple weeks passed, everybody's like, oh, well, yeah. They said it was going to happen in a couple weeks. It did eventually happen, but it was about a month and a half late. Because remember, the U.S. intelligence and UK intelligence, they all put out this information, and they basically put out the real playbook of what they were doing, but it was before it happened. And what's really crazy is how much the United States and NATO is connected with UKR in all of this weird backdoor stuff that's going on. So it's like they put out the playbook, but it wasn't put into place yet. So I think that anything that we're hearing about will end up having a delay, and then something will happen, and people will be caught off guard because the time frame is wrong. But as it sits, there really is, 40% of the infrastructure for their power down. These are people like us. These are just normal people, doing their 9 to 5s, living in this place. Imagine if your country, just wherever you may be watching from, all of a sudden, everything starts falling apart. A lot of people stayed. People don't want to evacuate. Would you want to evacuate if something came to your town? People always think it's not going to happen here. It's, it wouldn't happen in a neighborhood like this. They think, if they're going to fire one missile, there's no way it's going to hit my house, right? Well, the people that perish end up, they end up being the unlucky ones, I guess. And then UKR rebuilds Navy with combat boats from U.S. aid package. So a lot of money is going that direction. And of course, just a ton of it. The military industrial complex is going nuts. It says up against one of the world's largest fleets, UKR's Navy struggled in the early months of Vlad's invasion. Since February 24th, Vlad has been dominating the waterways that surround UKR's eastern and southern coast. In 8 months, Vlad's military has secured strategic ports in Mariupol, Berdyansk, which both encircle the Sea of Azov. It said but it appears that UKR has been rebuilding its Navy with the help of the U.S. In June, the Department of Defense announced that it would send 18 coastal and riverine patrol boats in the $450 million military assistance package that it just put through. It said it included 2 35-foot small unit river craft, 6 40-foot maritime combat craft, and 10 Dauntless Sea Arc 34-foot patrol boats. So these are more like what I think of like Coast Guard boats, right? Probably with some 50 cals on them or 40 cals or whatever they put on them. It says this will be helpful in enabling the UKRs to defend Odessa and other positions along the Black Sea coast, a senior defense official said in a briefing at the Pentagon. The vessels are small and not meant to compete directly on the open seas with warships like the Moskva, the Vlad Black Sheep flagship that the UKR forces destroyed with a missile strike early in the conflict, but the combat boats can execute coastal and river operations. So again, this is a picture of the Moskva. It's not meant to do that, and of course it's not. These are tiny boats. It almost seems like, I don't know, maybe they could have used all of the money combined and sent them something like this or something. I don't know. But I bet they're doing that because it's maybe better profit margins, like on used cars, right? They're like, we could say they cost this much, and it only costs us this much to make, right? And then, all the profit could go right into our pockets. Just kidding, not kidding. The commands fled. Putin's own troops keep humiliating them. So, mind you, take absolutely everything with a grain of salt. It is during conflict time, which means just like the old school information wartime office and of course the Ministry of Defense and all the stuff that has happened during previous conflicts, there's a lot of ganda as far as everyone in the Western world is convinced that Vlad is out of ammo, out of shells, that, he's just absolutely defeated. They're running and hiding tail. The more you look into history, Vlad has surprised people time and time again. And I may do a video on this, but there's actual clips that have leaked after WW2 of Adolf, real Adolf, speaking in secret, talking about how he actually says in German, he's talking about how if somebody told me that, one of these enemies would have 35,000 tanks, he said, I would have told you, you're seeing double, you're seeing ghosts, you're mad, you're absolutely loopy. He said, but then we saw them, and it was true. Russia had 35,000 tanks in WW2. And he said it was unbelievable. It was like something he never saw before. And this was a really rare tape of him talking. And he basically said he couldn't believe it. He absolutely couldn't believe they had this much. So historically, Russia has done things so where it hides what it really has. And if you look at the tanks, all these tanks that they say that they've destroyed, they're like the Tu-62s or the old school tanks. The same tanks that they had back in WW2. I mean, there are some tanks that literally are decades and decades old. So this, along with the news that they said that they were sending in conscripts, people off the street that didn't have experience, basically to run in and fire off something and hopefully get a lucky pot shot on these UK military guys. Basically, they're just like in previous conflicts where they sent in guys just to be sacrificed with 100-year-old rifles. It looks like they're throwing in all of the garbage before they use the good stuff. And why would they be doing that? In my opinion, they are waiting for the big one, the big conflict to hit. This isn't to scare people. To me, it makes a whole lot of sense. Why they sent in a line of 40 tanks or 40 miles of tanks, and they were all these old tanks. All of the tanks that they've recovered, and they say that are now UKR, they're old tanks. It doesn't make sense. Maybe they've taken a few of the new ones, but most of the data says that they were old tanks. So where are all of their new tanks? Half their GDP goes into the military every year. I think personally that they are throwing in everything they have, like, trying to use, save the best for last. I mean, it's as simple as that. And they have a lot of Ganda saying that, they're just failing horribly. And guess what? They want people to be behind this and say, yeah, we're winning. We knew we could take them. We're the biggest and the best. You don't underestimate your enemy, and especially a nuclear enemy, and especially a near-peer adversary. Anybody who's smart will know that you don't do that, and you don't underestimate. And you also know that there's just tons of information going out on both sides. Dex, what is your take on that?
Well, this is definitely one of those scenarios where they have a set of people that are on video that look like those early conscripts or without a lot of experience, and they're upset, they're angry, they're complaining of a lack of food, water. They say they have rusty rifles from the 1970s, and they thought that they were even too dangerous to even use. So yeah, this is again, this could easily be put together. This could easily be made to present a story or a narrative one way or the other, because this is not. But it does come across in some senses as looking valid as well. But we have to take it all with a grain of salt.
People believe they have no gear.
Produced.
Do people believe that they've spent all this year building up, and any year besides this year, everybody has known there's been story after story after story for years before all the Ganda started coming out. There's been story after story after story of them while we were dismantling things. There were GOP lawmakers saying, look at Vlad, they're getting these advanced things. Look at Xi, they're getting these advanced things. They're beefing up their military. Do you think all that gear just got melted down to make 40-year-old rifles? No. Why aren't they taking any of they don't want UKR to get their hands on their good stuff, because they're going to be fighting a bigger peer adversary sooner. That's my opinion on this, and it's not going to change. We're going to WW3, in my opinion, and that freaks people out. People push back against it. They don't want to hear it. Look at what is being taken. Look up the tanks that they have taken. From the numbers standpoint, they're like, oh my gosh, they've taken all these tanks. They're failing horribly. They're tuck and tail. But then you see the same people saying, well, it looks like they're bringing civilians out of this city, Kherson, which again, that's what we're watching right now. Watch Kherson. They're saying that it's possibly a trap, that all the guys go in and they take one swipe and then boom, it's done. And then the international community, if they do take out a bunch of people at once with something like a tactical, then everybody gets involved. All of a sudden, it's going to be, everybody's going to be blood red in the eyes and say, we need to go and get involved in this. They're putting all the information. Information is a huge part of this. And now it's instant. They can instantly make things now. It's not like before where they had to do all campaigns. They can instantly get into your phone and give you information that makes the narrative change overnight. So this is going to be a lot different than any of the last conflicts. It's going to be bonkers. That's my opinion. What's yours? I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. By the way, thank you over on DLive. Chance, thank you for modding. Thank you, Jammer. Thank you, Zuby360, Paul Shaggy. Thank you, Wonder Woman, if you are in there. Kimberly, thank you. Says, hope you're feeling better, Marfin family. And then Chewy Weather, Scooby Doo Right, Paul Shaggy, Johnson, Ms. O, Johnson, End Times. Thank you for being here. And then Johnson, thank you for gifting out Marfia badges to those who don't have it. And then over on Rumble, thank you so much, everybody that is popping in there. I appreciate all of the viewers over there. LJP, thank you for your support on PayPal. Linda P, Karina J, thank you guys. I appreciate that. And of course, over on YouTube, thank you all of the folks that are watching. It looks like we have, what is that? I don't know if it's actually showing there.
4394.
Huh. Wonder if that's just my thing or what. It says 0, but I'm glad after the other night, you never know. Well, thank you, everybody. 4,300 on YouTube. Really appreciate that, and could not say thank you enough for stopping back by. Dorothy Tucker, happy birthday. GG777. Dorothy Tucker, nice to see you. Again, Sweetie Turner, James Parks, and everyone else. I appreciate you guys. And then UKR says, Vlad's forces pillage, occupy Kherson, homes ahead of battle. It says that UKR accused Vlad on Monday of looting empty homes in the southern city of Kherson and occupying them with troops in civilian clothes to prepare for street fighting in what both sides predict will be one of the most important battles. It says in recent days, Vlad has ordered civilians out of Kherson in anticipation of a UKR assault to recapture the city. Only regional capital Moscow has seized since its invasion in February. Kherson, with a poor population of nearly 300,000, have been left out in the cold and dark after power and water were cut to the surrounding areas over the past 48 hours. It says Russian installed officials blamed UKR sabotage, and they said that they were working to restore electricity. UKR officials said that the Vlad's country had dismantled 1.5 kilometers of power lines, and electricity probably would not return until UKR forces recapture the area. Kyiv was described the evacuation of the area as a forced deportation, a war crime. So they're saying that Vlad has gone in there, their military has grabbed all the civilians, they're taking them out. Something's got to be up. If not, then what the heck is going on? And they're saying that the people are going in, the military's going in saying, hey, are you my size? What size boots are you? Give me those clothes. And by the way, you're going to hop in there in your underoos and hop in that truck and you're going back to Vlad country. We're going to stay in your house for a few days and we're going to wait. Setting up their snipes or whatever. That's what they're saying. We don't know if this is absolutely true. It sounds more like from other media outside of the country that they are actually just completely evacuating and they're drawing them in, and possibly this is what's, they're going to do some sort of huge event. Dex, this is kind of what about a week ago we heard kind of chatter and rumor of this. I guess this is more, info saying that it kind of confirms what they were saying, but.
Well, it started with the flag being lowered. It started with the occupation flag from Vlad's country being lowered. It started with the Vladian trucks rolling through town with loudspeakers telling people to evacuate. They were evacuating people. I think even in this article, it mentions like they took 100 disabled children from a medical facility in the Kherson region, and they're now been moved to Moscow. Patients from an elderly person's home also moved, and they are claiming that Vlad's forces are now occupying those facilities specifically. So this is, I think, the main thing at the top of this article. It said that this was the location that's going to be one of the biggest, points of this conflict, right? One of the biggest battles of this conflict. I think it's being built up to be that, whether it's through the actions or through the media or through the reporting. So something's going on. That's what we say, watch Kherson, because something's going to happen here. Either they're going to roll in and it's going to be a big battle, or maybe they're going to roll in and it's going to be some sort of, other thing that goes off that we hope doesn't happen, that could actually be a huge turning point, and not in a good way, in a bad way for this conflict, because that would just draw everyone in.
And this would happen in the middle of the night here, I think, or it might happen at 7 or dinner time here is in the middle of the night there. It might actually happen in the middle of the night there. In that case, it would be daytime here. But if this does go down during the day over there, it will be something that we end up waking up to, and it will be some crazy news. It just seems, I feel like we're going to wake up one of these days at 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning, and something crazy is going to go down. That's my feeling. That's just a feeling, and obviously we all get those feelings. But we'll see what happens with it. And again, it's going to be something that could change all of our lives. If something really big happens that all of a sudden the international community says we need to go in and play a bigger part, which, by the way, everybody is connected with UKR. They're sending in gear and gear and gear. Just like WW2, when everybody was complaining about us sending all this millions of dollars over to Britain and to Europe and everything else. Everybody was fighting back against saying, "Oh, don't send all this. Why are you sending this money there when we could use it here?" It's history repeating itself. We are heavily involved all the way back. I mean, if you know the history of UKR and the current administration and everything else, obviously there's something huger going on here. And again, I know that huger is not a word, but I'm sick. Give me a break. Stimulate. What's going on? Billy the Kid, Norwood. It says, I cannot be drafted. Only 18 through 26. I'm good. That could change, Billy the Kid. Just to let you know, I'm 35, and there has been talk, and they tried to fit in a change to the draft to add women, and it was a weird push, and it was just very quiet. They were going to try to add women into the draft not too long ago. Like, what was that, Dex? Like last year or 2020? They tried to put that into a bill during CV, and everybody's like, why are you putting that in there? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was about a year ago, December of last year, I believe. And yes, it was one of the budget bills for the military.
But if they needed it, if there was a true on draft, they would pull people up to 4. We would do the same thing as whatever Vlad's doing, right? They would grab 45-year-olds. To be honest, I think science has said that the men hit their physical peak or can be at their physical peak at 50. So I think they would probably take that into account. Obviously, not all 40 or 50-year-olds are at their physical peak, but they do say you actually, a male body can hit its physical strength peak at 50. So I bet you they would go and they would expand that if we needed to, and hopefully it never gets to that point. But think about what a draft is. Think about you're just living and you think you're in a free country anywhere. Anywhere can take your stuff, take your car. If it's wartime, they can take your house and say, this is the U.S. government's. They can take your house and say, this is the Canadian government's now. They can take you and they can say, you are now basically our property. You're going to fight for us. Somebody said that's not true about older. It depends on where we're at. Are they going to lose a conflict? If it was to the point where we were losing, do you think they wouldn't grab a 35-year-old because they were outside the 26 age limit? I don't think so. I think they would first grab the 18 to 26 or whatever it was. But I think if it got really bad, which I probably won't, I think they would go outside of it. Stimulate says you'll be 36 by the time they draft. Ha! Hopefully. With some people saying as soon as this year, I'm like, we've got a month left. Stand alone. All we can do is prepare. Tristan Early, 63, still haven't peaked, LOL. Not up for debate. I believe you. So many people do not know governments, mafias. Is there really a difference? Tommy Tier, not really. But think about that. They can grab anything they want. They can take your car, your house, your land, your money. They can take anything. It's not as free as you think when you think about it like that. And then before we talk about Vlad's enemies of Kremlin, meet to plot violent elimination of Vlad, which we've kind of said. It's kind of surprising that this happened. Before we do, I do want to remind you, make sure to go check out a device called the EMP Shield. Highly recommend it. This, we believe, will save lives in the event of an EMP. This can protect your cars, your boats, your motorcycles, even your house and your ham radios, even your energy solar generator. In fact, the Flex 1500 is the only solar generator you can get an EMP shield for. A custom EMP shield is made for that. This can also protect you against CMEs. We just recently had a big solar flare that ended up hitting and causing ham radio blackouts, but it's nothing compared to a full-on Carrington level event hitting Earth. It will happen at some point, and we're basically hoping that the grid and every country is going to have their stuff together by the time the next one hits. The last Carrington level event turned telegram wires into fire, or telegraph wires into fire, and actually caught people's headsets on fire. That was before we had all of the electronics we do of today that are 10 times more sensitive than what they had back then. So if we have a Carrington level event now, no one knows what will happen, but they know it will not be good. They say it could knock out, again, all of our grid, and 90% of people would perish, not because they would be taking each other out, but because all of the infrastructure would break down. We would not have drinkable, potable water. We would have nothing. So again, this is something that you can actually protect yourself against. It's not something the government is going to do for you. They're going to protect themselves. In fact, DOD, DHS has used EMP Shield. Again, they're on an industrial level for them. You can actually get the same devices for yourself at marfooglenews.com/EMP. At the very least, I would look at the car version. That is their most popular. That way, if you work 10 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles away from home, that you'll be able to get to home. Or if you need to bug out 100 miles away, you can get there. That's marfooglenews.com/EMP. You get $50 off per device, and you are helping our independent channel at the same time. That's marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, talk to anybody that's already purchased from them and has dealt with them. You actually deal with people when you call. It's a veteran-owned business, and it is 100% American-made. marfooglenews.com/EMP. Dex, the Vlad's enemies of the Kremlin meet to plot. Again, from a lot of stuff is coming out of the Daily Beast. Do you want to talk about this one?
Certainly. So this is a group of activists that got together in Poland, and they're basically discussing openly like how they think they could actually take out Vlad. Everything from staging a civil conflict, taking up arms, and then taking him out to guerrilla style fighting, etc. So they basically got together, had this big meeting, and I don't know that anything's going to come of it, but this again is just sort of the narrative that we keep getting about whether sometimes it's the inside of the government over there. In this case, it's not the government, these are just activists, but don't want to discredit activists because they certainly can do their own thing at some point, depending on how they probably move pretty stealthily. But yes, this is that narrative we keep getting about Vlad and how, he may be taken out one day, whether it's inside or outside or, somehow by design. But I don't know if that really solves the problem, but we'll have to see. It's kind of interesting though, this team's meeting so openly about it.
And by the way, it's, somebody, Crop Duster said, "What's up with all the Ganda today?" This is I don't know, because this is kind of a real group that's meeting, but it's like, what are they actually going to do? It takes near peer adversaries to go in and take somebody out like that. Not a bunch of people meeting. I don't know. Who knows? They could have some friends up in high places, but yeah, there's a lot of Ganda every day. And that's why you got to pay attention. You got to take everything with not only a grain of salt, you have to have the salt shaker ready and just sprinkle it over every story and then lick the page. I don't know how I don't know. But you got to watch what you're consuming. Again, that's why it's important when you take this. This is going in the history books, and I remind everybody that's new here. When you cover mainstream media, you have to question. And if no one questions it in the future, in 20 years, when kids look back and they're doing their essays for school, I forget, some 18 or 19-year-old was commenting the other day, and they wrote an essay on WW3 and how everybody should prepare. They're focusing on new stuff. But if somebody was writing an essay on old history, right? What do you think is going to pop up when they use their future Oogle or whatever they're using to do their research? These are the history that they're going to pull up. So when you think about mainstream media, also remember that after the people that are born right now that have no idea what really happened, they're going to be reading this, and this is history. So if we don't put some physical piece going over that exact piece and questioning it, then there will be nothing on record. And that's another reason I think that a lot of us are gotten rid of, because then that's not in the history books. There's nobody questioning the narrative. There's nobody questioning what was said back in the past. Anybody that went hardcore against it, they're gone. So just remember that when there has to, hopefully in 20 years they'll find my video and say, well, wait, hold on a second. People back then didn't absolutely 100% believe this. And then the secret mission to snatch Crimea back from Vlad's clutches. Again with the Daily Beast. Dex, go ahead. You take this one.
Well, this is kind of crazy. This is thought that, this whole Kherson event is, a big push from Zelensky, and that when they get that and they win that, then the next step is going to be going all the way into Crimea and taking that back. Wow. I mean, that's really taking it from like 0 to 1,000. Vlad annexed that back in 2014, I believe. So they've been there for quite a while. So to think that they're just going to roll in and snatch all that territory back, maybe wishful thinking, I guess, to say the least. But that's the narrative coming out of this one. Yeah.
Again, and they notice they show him with an off-green shirt and the same jacket. What gets me, and people are like, who cares what he wears? Somebody commented that. I'm like, you have to understand that every politician, they will change depending on what state they're in. They have people telling them what kind of shoes. Like if they're in Texas, they'll tell them to wear alligator shoes or something. Or if they're in Florida, they'll tell them to wear alligator shoes and what color tie to appeal to the certain the certain geographic of people or whatever. It's like they have told him to relate to the regular person there, and to make the whole world say, he's right there on the front line. They're basically they've basically made him look like he's in the trenches in the front line. He only wears a green shirt and this jacket. That's the only outfit. He's never wearing a suit and tie. Even that he's in conflict, he's still the president. You would think that would hold a certain thing there, or at least he would have a blue shirt, a red shirt, a green shirt. They always have him looking like he's straight out of an REI thing. It's just what gets me is that that somebody is advising them on everything they do, everything, and somebody behind the scenes is like, no, we need you in green shirt 24/7. U.S. Northeast is hurtling towards a winter heating crisis. So this is again, now things are coming home. It says in the most densely populated corner of the U.S., temperatures are just starting to drop, and the signs of a winter crisis are already multiplying. Heating oil delivered to New York is the priciest ever. Retailers in Connecticut are rationing it to prevent panic buying. New England stockpiles of diesel and heating oil, the same product, taxed differently, are a third of normal levels. It says natural gas inventories are also below average. A Massachusetts-based utility is imploring President JB to prepare emergency measures to prevent a gas shortage. It says add some cold to the mix, and the best case scenario, Northeast consumers will shoulder the highest energy bills in decades this winter. The Bee administration, under pressure to tame prices ahead of the midterm, is considering ways to stash more diesel and gasoline in New England. In worst case scenario, a cluster of states with combined economy bigger than Japan's will run out of fuel to keep the lights on and heat homes and businesses. It says it's going to be pretty bad, said Marcus McGregor, head of commodities research at Conning Inc. Diesel, heating oil, and natural gas prices are through the roof. And when you're on a fixed salary, how does that impact your overall budget? It has to be bad. It says the Northeast is no stranger to fuel constraints. Its dearth of pipelines and refineries means that the shale fields of Texas and Pennsylvania might as well be on the other side of the world. But now a global supply crunch intensified by the conflict in UKR is putting on the region at risk of an energy disaster to rival the one menacing Europe. The Northeast will compete with countries across the Atlantic and around the world for fuel to generate power, fill up trucks, and keep the cold at bay. So, Dex, again, the diesel has been talked about. We've talked about this for weeks, and now it seems like it's kind of coming to a head. As far as, most people don't realize how bad it will get if we really, truly do have a diesel, kind of a run out or a shortage. And now we're here.
Well, certainly. And there's just now, I guess, starting to see the evidence. We've talked about it. They've said it. But now we've got, we're on the precipice in New England to have outages and shortages. And I'm imagining, and I'm actually hearing from some people that they're starting to see certain signs in areas where stations are saying they're out of diesel at the moment. So this could be the story that starts to roll up real quick, and we start to hear about this over the coming days and weeks. I think they were obviously trying to hold off on having any of this happen between now and tomorrow.
Okay, who are they interviewing this? It says, I just can't believe it. The monthly expenses are crazy amounts, said McDonald. Look at this. It says, I'm trying to hoard every penny. His family's total spending has climbed to $10,000 a month from $8,000 last year. Who are they? Are they interviewing like one of the producers or something? Who is this? Oh, he's a realtor. Dude, you're spending $10,000. I think you could cut some stuff out. Most people don't make $10,000 a month, let alone spend it. From $8,000 last year. What the hell? Like, why wouldn't they use a more realistic example for this article? I don't know. But think about this. If his heating is well, what size house are you in that? Even if whatever. So they're using it for $500 for heating. Think about if a regular person has $500 heating. That's really high. And as far as look at how people are right now, and especially the millennials that they say, with all of their crazy loans and debts for their school and everything else, for their ripoff of a degree and everything else, you have to sacrifice serious stuff like health insurance. You can't afford Obamacare when you have car insurance, you have rent, you have this, you have that, and then all of a sudden your freaking heating has gone up to $500, $600 when you don't even have that to work with. I mean, this is this is incredible times we are living in, and it's only going to get worse. And that's not to be a pessimist. That's to be a realist. And people need to do whatever they need to do, get whatever hustle they need ready now to realize that this is coming our way. This is something that's like a Mack truck, and it's going to hit us in the face. If you're prepared for it, and if you do try to look at things as a long-term thing, then you'll be way better off. And you definitely will be more comfortable throughout all of this crazy stuff going on. See, I hope that like after that freeze that Texas had, places like Texas, if people in Texas really do prepare and get their stuff, I know that we have plenty of Texas preppers here. If you have your food and prep and all that kind of stuff, and you're already good after that freeze, then throughout all of this, you won't be going to the grocery store. You can go to your pantry to cook food instead of spending $600, $1,000 a month on just food. And then lab-grown blood given to humans in world's first trial aimed at combating rare disorders. It says blood grown in a laboratory has been transfused into humans for the first time in a landmark clinical trial that the UK researchers say could significantly improve treatment for people with blood disorders and rare blood types. It says 2 patients in the UK received tiny doses equivalent to a few teaspoons of the lab-grown blood in the first stage of a wider trial designed to see how it behaves inside the body. It says the trial, which will now be extended to 10 patients over the course of several months, aims to study the lifespan of lab-grown cells compared to infusions of standard red blood cells. What the hell? So this is like the movie Morpheus. If you didn't see that gem, that's a Marvel, kind of I guess, anti-villain, or where the guy ends up getting bit by a bat or something, and it has, I forget what his name is, but it's a newer movie. And in the movie, he instead of he invents this lab-grown red blood cell, and it's actually white in the movie. But that's happening in real life right now. They're making lab-grown blood. With the future of Neuralink and everything being integrated with machines and now lab-grown everything, are we losing humanity here? Dex, they say the aim is not to replace regular human blood, but to kind of suffice it and to make up to basically add to it. What do you think about this?
Of course, they don't want to scare everybody. They don't want everybody to think, oh, we're making, blood and all sorts of types of blood in the lab. But if they can create, this one, special kind, then who's to say they can't just create the regular kind, or who's to say they can't create the kind that a lot of other people are looking for? So, this kind of has a little bit of a hokiness to it. I think, it's sure there's always a silver lining, like we can help people with certain illnesses, but I'm just thinking, like, what's all the crazy stuff, and, who's willing to pay top dollar to have, tiger's blood, so to speak, right?
Oh, you went there. I think about too is, what if they see an instance in the near future where they know we will not have enough blood for, say, something like a WW3 scenario where they're going to be short on blood and they're going to need to, I guess, add to the collection. For blood, you basically need a human donator. Well, what if you've got, some sort of horrible event worldwide where you need massive blood transfusions or something? I don't know. Just a thought. But it is kind of crazy because it's straight out of a movie. By the way, going over to the chat, thank you everybody that has just made it in. Thank you again, James Parks. I appreciate your support there. WV Prepper Chicks. Let's see here. What was that? Something about Turner. Let's see. Says, Hal Turner broke the story about 11 emergency action messages. I haven't seen that yet.
It's the EAM watch that we've talked about with Sky Kings. There was a handful today, but to put it in perspective, there were hundreds last month, so they happen all the time.
Yeah. No, I know, but I meant haven't seen the Hal Turner version of it. Version. The world's population can fit inside Texas. Got to that. Wahaha, no worms in the dirt. Sweetie Turner, thank you so much. I appreciate your support, and I believe I missed you. Love you all. From Canada, Patricia Parent, thank you so much for your support. And then Lisa Jones, hey Marf, love your show. It's 5 a.m. here in the UK, and I've stayed up just to watch your show. Your news is always on, spot on. Keep up the good work. X. I think that's like love and hugs or something. What is it? XOXO means hugs, right? It's hugs. All right, and then thank you as well. It says GBP, and I realize now what that stands for. Is it Great British Pound? Is that what GBP stands for? Anyways, thank you. And Lisa Jones, appreciate that. Nana of Montana, thank you for the massive support. Nana, I love it when you make comments and write something. And then Dorothy Tucker, thank you for saying happy birthday to somebody. Thank you for using that space to push up somebody else. Looks like for GG777, haven't seen her in a while. It's kind of sad. And then Sean Jock, Machina Opus, Jaleesa H, thank you. Zippy Moons, BT777, Miss Mountains, James Wright, Zemwin AZ, Carol McLean, Miss Dragon, Phil D. Roll, thank you so much. Lola Cafe, Terabile 3, Luis Martinez, thank you, and I hope you're watching the replay for everybody that couldn't make it to the live. All right, and then just a quick note, if you are one of the many people that only have 3 days of food in your fridge, and if you do have the ability, highly recommend getting yourself some long-term survival food. It's not exactly going to be the It's not exactly going to be the stuff that you crack open unless you really need it. It's, again, an amazing thing to have in a clutch situation. As far as essentials of life, they have pretty much everything at marfooglenews.com/prep. Mostly, though, people are definitely getting the freeze-dried foods right now. Freeze-dried foods, again, in high demand and in low supply. Here you can actually get all sorts of packages, anywhere from just a single meal to a 72-hour kit you can put in a go bag to a 3-month supply, which is now $250 off, which is the largest sale they've ever done in history. Again, that is 90 days of food for one person, or 45 days of food for two, or so on. You can keep going down again, that's a great thing as far as a week of food for 12 people if you have a large family. So this is a great thing to do as far as having a backup. It is, again, if you already have other foods stored, this only adds to it. There's all sorts of different kinds and brands out there. This one I really like because it does give you the 2,000 calories per day. And again, this is something that will get you through hard times, last 25 years. They're all sealed in Mylar bags. Again, really great to have this as a backup. They're all sealed in then buckets as far as the 3-month kits, and very discreet. They ship to you. It doesn't look like, again, if the boxes come unmarked. It's a very great thing if you don't want your neighbors thinking that you're crazy end of the world. Or marfooglenews.com/prep. It is a great thing to have. marfooglenews.com/prep. You'll get that $250 off when you use this link on the 3-month supply, and there's all sorts of other deals going on, so make sure to head over there now. All right, thank you guys, and that does support us as well. They give us a small commission every time you guys purchase. One thing to think about is that food in 3 years from now, if it's tripled in price like it has in the last 3 years, you'll still have 22 years on the shelf, and again, you won't have to get it then. It's better to buy it yesterday than tomorrow. Hurricane watch subtropical storm eyes Florida, Bahamas. It's a subtropical storm. Nicole is now expected to become a hurricane over the Bahamas before hitting Florida's east coast on Wednesday. Well enough after polls closed to avoid disrupting on election day, forecasters said. It says we won't really start to see any significant impacts from Nicole until Tuesday night. So even the storms are waiting until after we drop the ballots in. Dex, this is probably on purpose, right? The storm is probably parking off and, reading a newspaper until it doesn't want to mess up anything at the polls, right?
No, it doesn't want to take the limelight. That's for sure. It's going to come in after. But this is kind of a rough go. If this turns into a big storm, they do say it does have the potential of going pretty large with a lot of wind. I don't know if it'll be as catastrophic as the one we saw that hit Florida earlier this year. But if this does and it crisscrosses over or hits into that same area, that would be pretty bad for those folks that got to take a double whammy.
Yeah, if especially after people are still reeling off of the last big storm that hit, hopefully this doesn't turn up being something too crazy. And then preppers in 2022 stocking up and skilling up for extreme catastrophes. Dax, do you want to go over this? This is a pretty good one.
Yeah, well, the thing about it, there's nothing in here that we don't know because this is an article about what we all do, right? So, but the question I ask is why is CBS, and this is the second time we've reported something like this. It's like the third time we've reported something mainstream around this whole notion of prepping. So, if these big, media outlets are starting to talk about it, what is that telling us? It's not, to me, I'm starting to think that they think they're getting closer to something. And, we've always been ahead of the curve. Like we knew to have, masks and toilet paper long before they ran out. Right. So it's not about that. I think it's probably more about the fact that they're pushing this narrative out. Now, certainly it's interesting if you want to hear some of these stories about what some of these folks have done and, how they prepped for this or what they did for that. It's a pretty long article. My point or my thought on it is, why is mainstream pushing this?
Yeah, I don't, Again, it says, if you hear the term, look at how it starts out. If you hear the term survivalist and it conjures images of militants and conspiracy theorists, why? Why does it conjure that? Who made it like that? If you look at any other part of your life, and by the way, somebody said they don't have the ability to control the weather or whatever. That's actually they do, and that's on document. I'm not saying this to slight you, but I will say this. They made a pact before that actually shows that. But they have the word conspiracy theorist was created by CIA. Think about that. Hold on one second.
And we just reported not too long ago that Xi was using seeding and clouds to create rain for their drought areas. So they certainly can. Whoever was saying that about the weather certainly can be done. So, but back to this this mainstream article about survivalists and about the fact that they sort of say that all of us that do this are on that fringe edge. But they're also starting to make this notion that it's not just the fringe anymore. It should be more everyone. And I'm kind of I go back to questioning it as to why are they bringing this to the forefront, because it's not something they normally would do.
No, it's not, and it's just funny that everything that talks about this basically makes us out to look like we're nuts, right? And they even started out that way. It's how these articles start. Sorry, I'm trying to focus this with my, what's his face? Megatron. There we go. That's good enough. But they always make it like, it says, well, it's time to reset your doomsday clock. They make everybody look like they're holding the cardboard sign, the end is near. There's crazy, they make it look like in the movie 2012, the Woody Harrelson character, I think that was 2012, that had him in the RV and he had all these notes, and in the movie he ends up being right. And he's like, I was right, it's so beautiful, the end of the world, right? Look at what is happening right now. Look at the richest and most influential people in the world are trying to get off planet. The richest and most influential people are building rockets to get off Earth and saying that our only hope for humankind surviving is being interplanetary. It's like, what the hell? This is reality. Or, again, some of you could argue we're in a simulation or whatever it is. But holy moly, look at what is actually happening. Look at where the richest people are spending their money. They're setting up governments in space right now. Every country is trying to get up into the sky for some reason. They're all hoarding food. They're all hoarding wheat and corn and all of these things. They're hoarding natural resources. Meanwhile, they're telling all of us that and by the way, they're telling us that the end is coming, but they're saying it's going to be because the weather is changing, right? So they're officially saying, mainstream media, if you are to believe everything that mainstream media says, and scientists and everybody agrees, then it's still the end of the world. So their end of the world is okay, but our end of the world, we're crazy and survivalists and militants and all this. It's stupid. It's absolutely just stupid. Which, by the way, anything else, you look at this as responsible. If you live in any kind of place that has different events, if you live in Florida, you have probably plywood sitting around for the season when you put plywood up on your house, right? Winds are going to hit your house, so you have plywood, or you already know how to prep. You have sandbags. You have all these things. People prepare because they know it's going to happen. If you're in Tornado Alley, when you hear the sirens, you have your little place to go to, right? Well, these unlikely events happen all the time, and it's like Murphy's Law. You have insurance on your car. Why? Because you know you're going to get in a car accident, or you think it's a possibility. Why do you have life insurance? You don't know when you're going to die, but you do it knowing that it could happen, right? Why do you have insurance on your DVD players or Blu-ray players from Best Buy or on your phone? You don't know you're going to drop it, but you think it could happen. So what is any difference? Why is it when you store food and water, which are imperative to our actual life, why is that looked upon like we're nuts? It doesn't make any effing sense. And it's because they don't want people to be self-reliant. They don't want you to be off-grid. They don't want you being self-sustainable, even though they're saying that the world needs to be. The world needs to be by you playing your part and being a good little drone. That's what they want. They want you to be dependent on them, not the other way around. They don't want a bunch of independent people that don't need the system. The whole system that's the whole point of it. They need you to be on grid, on paper, and get your money and get your work hours. You're giving your time. You're working your 9 to 5. There's two things guaranteed: death and taxes. They want you on system. That's why the Bank for All Act and all this stuff that's going on, the digital era. That's why there's only one cash register at Walmart, which is directly connected to the government in so many different ways. One cash machine you wait 40 minutes for, or there's 50 credit card machines open at the self-checkout. And that one cash machine, guarantee you, they've got 3 cameras pointed at you, and every single person, they've got facial recognition going, this person uses cash every time. This person uses cash every time. And then they start tracking. I mean, like, it's so obvious in my opinion, but whatever. Why one? Oh, there's a change shortage. That's why we only have one cash machine. That doesn't make sense. Little grocery stores can have 20 of them going, but you can't have more than one. Doesn't make sense. Heard a big bang. California man believes meteor may have destroyed his home. Which, again, the sightings of meteors and things coming into our atmosphere have quadrupled over the last few years. And I haven't seen the latest, but as of last year, the sightings and the groups of sightings have gone up and quadrupled, and they have gone up exponentially. So since it was like 2017 or 2016, it's just gone up and up and up and up. So not only the group from 0 to 10, so 0 to 10 people see an asteroid coming in or a meteor coming in and burning off, that has gone up. From 10 to 100, from 100 to 500, those ones that the whole city sees coming in, all of those categories have gone up. Why? We're going through a yearly this or that. We go through all those yearly things. Why are more things coming in more than ever? Or at least why are more people seeing it? It should be less. More people are on their cell phones and totally, drilled into these things. So how are more people, seeing these things? It says, now that's a real kick in the asteroid. A Northern California home burst into flames and burned to the ground after a meteor, which witnesses saw flash across the sky, apparently fell from space and slammed into the structure, according to experts. It says Dustin Procida, rancher in Nevada County, wasn't sure what has hit his home Friday until after firefighters extinguished the blaze. It says, I heard a big bang. I started to smell smoke, and I went on my porch, and it was completely engulfed in flames. They said it was a meteor. I watched meteor showers as stuff as a kid, but I definitely didn't look forward to them landing in my yard or through my roof, he added. Procida had just returned inside after feeding some crows and was just sitting on the couch listening to music when the mysterious object hit his home. And by the way, I'll show you. I think they have, let's see here. I think they have a picture of him. Let's see here. Let's see. I think this is an actual picture of him, but I'm not sure. Apparently he now has superpowers and he can even talk to dogs. This may not be real, but the thing hitting his house apparently was. Dex, what if you were sitting there and a meteor just comes into your living room? That's pretty trippy. Do they have?
Yeah, I'm surprised he survived.
Do they have actual pictures of what happens? California, and he's feeding crows. It's kind of weird. Maybe you can talk to him now.
I got a picture of his burned up house. Hang on.
No insurance. Yeah. What if is Meteor? Is that covered under
It's
act of God?
covered. It's actually covered. I looked it up. Yeah,
No
falling
way.
objects hitting your house, including meteors and space debris, would be covered on most insurance policies.
Wow, that's a trip. Yeah, that would definitely be under act of God. I mean, there's no stopping that. What a trip. All right, and then let's see here. Mother leaps to death after struggling with militant now in China. By the way, if this isn't stuff we usually cover, I don't know if you got the link I sent you, but Aaron Carter also passed, which I didn't know until today. Aaron Carter was obviously the little brother of the boy band kid from either Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. But that guy was he was on one for years now, and he's been all over the internet because he's just he was a very odd kid. But he passed away, and obviously we don't cover much of that stuff, but there was some weird stuff, and I think over the next couple of weeks there might be some weird stuff. He was saying all sorts of stuff like he was being followed and all sorts of odd stuff about the Illuminati and all sorts of weird things. So just wonder if there's going to be any kind of theories around what happened. Mother leaps to her own perishing after struggling with militant lockdown in Xi's country. Dex, can you cover this one?
Yeah, so basically what happened was they welded her into her place, her and her daughter, and I think the audio of the daughter has caused a lot of people in Beijing to get upset after hearing what had happened, because the mother was so distraught over being welded into their home where they couldn't leave. Literally, the doors were welded. That she, did that unfortunate thing by leaping off. So on one hand, it's a story about the mother, but on the other hand, there is this unrest that's sort of building or potentially building, because a lot of people over there are not happy with the fact that these types of tactics are still being used. The zero policy is still being used, and it's causing a lot of problems for the society. So if things like this start to generate, a movement, so to speak, which is hard to do in that country, this is one that might actually pick up some steam. But I think it's always been hard for anyone to do anything significant in that country and rise up or protest. So
yeah, like the what was the last one that happened where they ended up protesting against it, and then the police there took down the banner that was on the freeway. What was that last one that happened? It was over something.
It slipped my mind, but yes, they've frozen bank accounts, shut down WeChat access. They do all sorts of things to anybody that has any type of dissent.
And by the way, this is what people are talking about the Everything app being, or the X app. Elon has shown public admiration and said that the WeChat app is the best app ever. You can do everything with it. WeChat is also how they do the social credit score. That's how they've connected everybody's biometrics, every last thing about them. Basically the opposite of Japan. They're turbo. They know everything about you. They link it to their WeChat. If you park a bike in the wrong spot, your social credit score can go down. If your social credit score gets too low, you won't be able to travel out of state. You won't be able to buy a train ticket, because you have to buy that train ticket with WeChat. You have to do all your transactions through it. Some believe that Elon actually bought Twitter because part of it is that he is going to load that AI, having millions and millions of people and their personalities typing it into Twitter. They would be able to use the fire hose of Twitter to load that into an AI and use that and turn it into something that they would use with Neuralink. So there's some pretty crazy things there. But as far as Xi and what's going on there, they can stop any kind of protest with what they do. It's very freaky. And this is what some believe is going to happen here. And then Australia bets on facial recognition for problem gamblers. More of this. I mean, this is incredible. Dex, we're running out of time. So if you just want to hit this one, and then I'll hit.
This is another example of AI and facial recognition. So they're using this again for quote unquote good to help look at people coming into the casinos and try to identify those that have problems because they come in often and lose a lot of money. So I personally don't think that financially works for the casinos, because if you get everybody out that's not willing to spend all their money there, then they're not going to make any money. But again, just think about the tech that they're deploying. They'll use this as a mechanism to build up the tech to make it work and deploy it and make everybody be comfortable with it. And then they'll flip it on to the next thing.
Yep. And Randy Man says, boof in public, and then your score goes down. Yeah, you can do anything. Anything, it's insane. This is scary because it's even to the places where people think that that's going to be the last stuff to roll out. Australia, man, they're ahead on some of that stuff, aren't they? And then multiple explosions reported at coastal Georgia chemical plant. Neighborhoods evacuated. Dex, again, this
was kind of big news here today. We had it was numerous explosions that happened at this chemical plant. I don't know the details yet. Obviously they're more worried about making sure it's safe for the people that live around there. They evacuated everyone. They're having to deal with the fire. It wasn't something that they could put out right away. It was going to cause a little bit of time for that. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to deal with it. They didn't get it contained, but it was going to burn throughout the day. So we'll probably hear more updates, maybe if there's any story behind what happened, if it was just accidental or if something else may have caused this to go boom.
Yeah, and since it's in Georgia, I'm sure that your local news will give you more updates than what they will around the country. I didn't hear anything about this, so I'm glad you caught it. But, I just wonder, with all of these different places blowing up out of random, that, some of them aren't random. Lisa Jones, thanks again. Nana of Montana says, good night, y'all. Hope you and the fam feel better soon. Adam, thanks, Dex and Moz. Take care and God bless everyone. Night. Thank you, Nana, for leaving a comment. I appreciate that. Nana of Montana, appreciate your support. And again, I hope you watch the replay and possibly the outro. Luis Martinez, sin to blood is backup blood. Tainted, useless, limited, untainted blood. Possible caused by die-offs. Good thought there. Luis Martinez, get a good night's sleep. Adam, even maybe take a shot of whiskey. The world would need your type after the coming conflagration. My neighbor said tequila. I don't drink, though. And when I did drink, I used to drink like the IPAs, the really strong ones. My stomach can't handle it. I've drank twice in the last 8 or 9 years. It's just, I can't handle it. It's like, even if I take a sip of anything, whether it be beer or anything, it's like hardcore acid reflux. Couldn't even if I wanted to. But yeah, and then I've been doing tea with honey and, what do you call it? Honey and lemon. That has helped more than anything. Dex, thank you for your service tonight. Obviously, we've got a lot of overflow. Maybe we'll just do kind of a overlay of this.
Certainly, there's a ton. So we've got an update, a short update about the gas shortages, diesel in Pennsylvania and Ohio now. There's also coverage going on with Twitter and what's happening there, specifically about where Elon is throwing his weight as for tomorrow. You can probably guess he's going to the right, but says he's willing to go to the left. So all of the political coverage is there. There was a big announcement tonight. There was supposed to be a big announcement tonight from the former prez, T-Man, who then came out and said, hey, I'm going to make my big announcement next Tuesday, because he didn't want to take the limelight away from what's happening tomorrow. So all of that is there. There's a ton of additional information besides the political stuff going on from whether it's Vlad or more Musk coverage. There's a ton of Musk coverage going on. Updates on car prices and many other things, including a lot of travel stuff. So apparently they took a whole bunch of seats out of an airplane to let the world's tallest woman make her first flight ever, because she couldn't really fit in the plane. And apparently we're all getting too fat. So they're taking out or leaving extra seats empty in certain planes because of the weight problem with Americans. So that and a whole lot more is going on. Oh, 3.36 billion in crypto was seized too. So for those of you that like to follow that from the old Silk Road days, so that and so much more, including updates on this platform and something they're doing. So go check it out. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or open up the show notes link in the description on all the platforms.
And by the way, we will start trying to do shorts because they now reach TV. There are some things that could be done there. They're competing with TikTok. They're trying to do the same thing. Obviously, TikTok is now being questioned. Several of the people I know have done really well on TikTok because it is such a weird place as far as it's so hyper. Their algorithm is so scary because I don't think they care about what the content is. They do have a lot of rules there, but I think it's more that they're getting that info. But yeah, YouTube is going to be doing that. So that does open up to a lot of people that actually view on their TV. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. And I appreciate everybody that popped in. Thank you over on D Live, Paul Shaggy, Scooby Doo Do Right, Ms. O, Skyhouse. Of course, Scooby-Doo Do-Right, Kimbria, Vicky K, Vicky Bruick, thank you for stopping by tonight. I saw you in the chat. Thank you, Johnson. Thank you, Sign Digger, Luke Z, Phil Billy, Dave, Romaine Jane. Appreciate all of you. Dex, thanks for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job.
And then
hope you're feeling better soon.
After the show ends here, it continues on Marfoogle Jams and also over on Rumble or on DLive. We're multicasting on multiple places there, so make sure to follow all of them. All the links to get everywhere are over on marfooglenews.com. Very simple to get to. You can find all of our platforms. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro, it's not a shout-out, it's a shout-out. Even if you left that way, I'd still love you like yesterday. Even if you left that way, I'd still love you like yesterday.